Hi guys! So I know the first thing you're probably thinking is my bookshelves look a little different, and you would be right, they do, because I rearranged them. I really liked having this bookshelf organized by color, but I was just kind of getting tired of not having all my series together. So I reorganized all 3 of my bookshelves into something that makes a lot more sense to me. So I'll probably be doing an updated bookshelf tour at some point in the future. But for today's video, I'm going to do the opposite books tag, which I was tagged to do by Helena Jeppesen approximately 1,000,000 years ago or so. So I figured the time is nigh. So on to the questions. Question number 1, what was the first book in your collection and the most recent book you purchased? The oldest book that I've had, according to my memory, is Cars and Trucks, or rather my first book of Cars and Trucks, because we all have many more books of Cars and Trucks. And you can see in the opening that it does indeed have my name, with my horrible, horrible child's handwriting. And for the most recent book that I purchased is The Archived by Victoria Schwab. And if you follow Jessie the Reader anywhere on the internet, you know why. And I've heard a rumor that there will be a read-along for this coming up in the next month or so watch out for that. Question number 2, what is a cheap book that you have, and what is an expensive book that you have? I have a lot of cheap books that I could have chosen from, because as you might know, I have been to a couple library book sales where books are 3 for $1, and one of those books that I have gotten is Letters to a Young Poet by Rilke, which I have not read yet. And as for a very expensive book, it's also a very heavy book. That is the complete paintings and drawings of Leonardo da Vinci. I got this at Powell's bookstore in Portland, and I believe it was around $70. And here's a look at the inside. Question number 3, a book with a male protagonist and one with a female protagonist. Of course, there are many to choose from, and I went with A Catcher in the Rye, whose protagonist is, of course, Holden Caulfield. And for female protagonist, I chose A Little Princess, which I have not read yet, but I definitely will. Question number 4 is one book that you read quickly and one that you did not. The Goblet of Fire, the 4th book in the Harry Potter series, is, I'm pretty sure, the largest one, and I guarantee you I read it in under 2 days. Unlike Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, which took me quite a lot longer. I believe I started this in the summer of 2012. I got to about 45% after a couple months, and then took a break of a couple months. And then in January of 2013, I picked it back up again and finished it. Question number 5 is one book with a pretty cover and one book with a not so pretty cover. For the pretty cover, I chose Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is from the Heirloom collection, and it's the only one of her novels in that collection that is purple, which happens to be my favorite color, so of course this is the prettiest one of them all. And for an ugly cover, you guys have seen me mention this because of its ugly cover before, Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, which I still have not yet read either. Question number 6 is a national book and an international book. For the national book, I chose Liberty by Garrison Keillor, which I have not read yet, but as you can tell from the cover, it is very American. And for international, this is my copy of Todo en un Museo, which I bought in Spain at the Reina Sofia Museum. So I have actually traveled overseas with this book. Question number 7 is a thin book and a not so thin book. For the thin book, I chose SEO Trot, which as you can see is indeed very thin, by, of course, Roald Dahl. And for the large book, I chose The Stand by Stephen King. This book is pretty much the size of my head, but I've heard that it goes very quickly because it's just so good. So we'll get to that one later. Question number 8 is a fiction book and a non-fiction book. For the fiction book, I chose The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, one of the most definite fictional books there ever was. And for nonfiction, I chose Secrets of the Flesh, A Life of Colette by Judith Thurman. This was in one of my recent hauls, and it is one of the books that appears on the Gilmore Girls that both Rory and Lorelai mention. Question number 9 is a very romantic book and one that is all action. For the romance, I chose The Notebook, one of the most popular romances out there. And yes, Nicholas Sparks does write romance books. And for the book that's all action, I actually struggled a little bit. I don't know if I have one that is just action, but I chose A Dance with Dragons, the most recent book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, which definitely has a lot of action in it, especially right at the end. Yep. And lastly, question number 10, a book that made you sad and one that made you happy. For one that made me happy, I had to choose Pride and Prejudice. And it's not just the book, just the story in any way that I encounter it always makes me so happy. The 2005 version of the movie just like gives me a high when I'm done watching it. And pretty similar with the book too. And for one that made me sad, this probably won't surprise you guys. I chose The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This is actually the audiobook read by John Green, which I just listened to a couple weeks ago for the first time. Although I think I cried more listening to it than I did the 2 times that I read the physical book before that. And that is the opposite books tag. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you to Helena for tagging me, and I apologize again for taking so long to actually do the video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you